Hi everyone, welcome back to the 23rd episode of this tutorial. Today we will add a death screen or a game over screen, if you will. We already have the class, so all we need to do is to add the image and the buttons to it. We will then add a death animation for the player when he dies. And as a reminder, all of the code and assets can be found on my website or on GitHub. If you have questions about this tutorial, or maybe you get stuck somewhere, check out the Discord link. And if you want to go the extra mile to show your support, there is a link below where you can buy me a coffee. Even though I don't drink coffee, I'm a tea guy. Let's do a quick recap about the last episode we did, and that was about projectiles. We had in the episode before that added cannons to the game, but the cannons were shooting blanks, and with this new episode, they are now shooting real projectiles. The process of adding projectiles to our game was not that difficult. We just had to change the spawn point for the cannonballs depending on what direction the cannon was facing. Then we also changed the timing of the firing to match the animation of the cannon. And that was the quick version on how we added projectiles to our game. We will start today's episode by adding the death animation for the player. And we already have it in our animation sheet or animation atlas, if you will. All we have to do is to animate the death animation once, and as soon as that animation is done, we pop up the game over overlay or the window that says that you're dead, and then the player can choose to leave or continue. But let's focus on the animation, and we're gonna do that by going to our player class. And the idea here is whenever the player dies, everything else stops. It's like freezing every movement, every update for enemies, objects, etc. So we only gonna see the player animate and change, so everything else stops. Pretty much the same as I did in my game, The Last Viking. The player dies, everything else stops, and all you can see is the player animating till he dead, and then you have the game over screen. So we're pretty much gonna do the same. And in our player class here, we can go to our update method, where we say if current health is less than or equal to 0, we set playing game over true. But we're not gonna keep this, we can comment this one out, but we're gonna work in here. And we're gonna have two states, one where the player is completely dead and one state where the player is dying. And when the player is dying, we have the animation and everything stops. And then as soon as the animation is over, we have the player being dead. And that's when we show the game over overlay. So first we just want to check if the player is already dead, or in the state called dead. Or rather is not equal to dead. We're going to do something, meaning he just came from some health to 0 health, meaning he isn't dead yet, but we're going to set him to dead. State equals dead, so we set the state to dead, the player state to dead. We want to say, we want to reset the animation. Tick is equal to 0 and animation index is equal to 0. And the reason why we do it here instead of set animation and then or rather update animation tick is as soon as we are 0 health, we don't want to update the attack box. We don't want to update the position, we don't want to check if the player is moving, we don't want to check if the player is attacking, etc. We just want to do whatever inside these two brackets. So we have to reset the animation in here instead of down here. I think we're going to do it. Yeah. And as soon as we have reset the animation, we want to call the playing method, playing.set player dying true. Meaning that there's two states that the player is dying, and if that's true, then we set enemy update, level update, etc. to not go through. So this is the boolean that we're going to create in the playing class that's going to not allow other managers to update. So we don't have that yet in our playing method, so let's go ahead and create it. And it's going to be a very simple one. This.player dying equals player dying. And this player dying needs to be here, as well as one at the top. Let's put it right. Private boolean player dying, and it's false by default. And if that's true, We need to add it in our update, but we're gonna change up here a little bit. If not game over, we can leave that section, but we're gonna check right here. Else if game over. So we're gonna change this one soon, but let's just keep it here for now. If it's game over, then we want to say, well, game over overlay dot update, which we will need to add as well. We can comment that out for now. And if it's not game over, else if the player could be dying, so we need to check if player is dying. Player dying, which is the boolean we just added. And that's the case, then we just want to player.update. Else we can do all of that. So the player cannot be dying and it couldn't be a game over. It's gonna be a game over or the player's dying. So that's why we split them up. We can leave this for now. Let's just see if this works later. So now we can go back to the player class. But if the player is at 0 health and his state is already dead, meaning he will not enter this is not the first time he's gone through this update, then we say else, or rather else if, because we need to check something. And what we need to check here is if the animation is over, but not yet reset. So we want to check if the animation is at the last index, animation index, meaning the last sprite of the animation, and the animation tick is at its maximum. And we're going to do 2 checks here. So animation index is equal to get sprite amount, player action, dead, -1. The reason why we add a -1 there, or -1, is if there are 7 sprites, we cannot check if the animation index is 7 because it always starts at 0. So this is just to make sure we don't get any index out of bounds error. Because if there are 7 sprites, we can only get to sprite index 6. And we're also going to check for animation tick is more or equal to animation speed, and -1 here as well. If the animation speed is 20, we will never reach 20, we will only reach 19 at maximum. So this checks for the last sprite, and this checks for the last animation tick. If that's the case, then we say playing.set game over true. Then we remove that one. And if that's not the case either, then we need an else and update animation tick. We still need to animate it, but we are not at the start and we're not at the end. We are somewhere in between, so update the animation. And if we are at 0 health, we never want to go down here. So that's where this return comes in to place. So I think it's time to test if this works. If we are 0 health, we are resetting and setting the state to dead. If we are at the end of the animation, we set, well, game over, for real this time, to true. And then if we're between that, we update the animation for only the player. So let's give this a try and see what happens. Let's get the crab to kill us. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so the player animated as predicted and everything else stopped. As you can see, the crab is in the middle of the attack animation. So that looks to be working. Now we need to make sure that we can reset it to the default setting once again. Or rather, if we click replay, we don't want the player to be dead when he starts. So let's reset this. We don't need to add any reset in the player class. It's in the playing class we need a reset, because the boolean is in the playing class. So where do we have reset here? Well, here we are. Player dying equals false. All right, let's try it again. So 1 hit, 2 hit, he dies, dying animation, everything froze. Escape, start playing again. All right, can he be killed again? One hit. I can just jump down here. All right, everything stopped, the player animation, and 3rd time's the charm. Yeah, it's working well. Great. All right, with that working, let's add our death screen into the game. And I have one here ready. The text is there, rage quit and try again for the place of the buttons right above it. So we're just gonna drag it and drop it in our res folder, like so. And we add a image. We go to our load and save and add that text that we need to make it work. So let's just call it death screen. And I think it was called death screen as well. Yes. Then we can go to our UI package and look for game over overlay. That was a long time since we were in our UI package. And first we're going to need an image for it, or somewhere to store the image. Private, buffered, image. We're gonna have just one image, so we can call it image. Need to import that class. We need create image method, because we're gonna need a few variables here as well. And I know we will need a few integer here, which is image x, image y, image width, image height. And that's just to make it much easier for us to change the values if we want to. So first, in our create image, let's just get the image is equal to load save dot get sprite atlas load save dot death screen. All right. And for our values here for x, y, width, and height, I'm just gonna copy paste what I have on my other screen. And we're gonna get the width for our image, just twice it, or times the scale. So we have the default size, which is the very image, and then we make it go times game.scale. Same for our width. Our x makes sure that the image is in the middle by going game width divided by 2 minus the width of the image divided by 2, and then I just set 100 as a starting point for the image y. So let's go down to our draw method and see if we can draw it. We could actually keep this, which is just making the background darker but not completely dark or black. So you know what, let's keep it, but let's get rid of this, but we can comment it out and just place it down there. And for our image, we go g.draw image, image x, image y, width, height, null. That's looking pretty good. Let's give it a try and see how it looks. All right, so it looks to be in the center. Now we just need to add the buttons. And to make our buttons work, we're gonna use URM buttons. But if we take a look at our level completed overlay, just for a second, we're not gonna use it, but we can take a look. It's gonna be pretty much the same right here. No, right here. So we have 2 buttons, we're gonna place them, we're gonna draw the buttons, we're gonna update the buttons, we're gonna do the mouse events actions right here. So we're gonna copy a lot of this into our game overlay. But let's create those buttons first. So private URM button. We got menu for rage quit and then play for try again. And we had a create image method. Let's make a create buttons. And then create that method. Remove that. Yeah, so let's go to our level completed overlay. And let's copy from the init buttons. Because they're gonna be in the almost the same position, so we just need to tweak these values a little bit. Other than that, it's gonna be very similar. So we have menu X and next X, but we're gonna call it play X. Y will keep, it won't be next, but it will be play. and it won't be next X, it will be play X. And let's take a look at the values. So 330, no, 335, and then 440. The Y will be the same. The type of button play is in the bottom, so we put 2. And menu is going to be the first button in that array, as you can see on the sprite atlas or the atlas for our URM buttons. Then we can go down to our draw here. After our background, we can call menu button.draw and then play button.draw. And let's just give it a try and see if they are visible. They should be. And they look like they are in a good, yeah, that's a good position. Now we just need to add the functions to it. And we're gonna copy a lot from our level completed overlay because it's so similar and we wanna keep it simple. So we're gonna copy mouse pressed, mouse released, mouse moved, and also this method called isIn. Copy, and then we're gonna paste it right underneath our key pressed here. And let's go over our button. So it's not next, it's play. We're checking play and play. So mouse moved, set mouse false true. Yeah, that looks correct. If we're releasing it, we can comment the method, or rather what we're doing once we release it. A little bit. But let's change all next to play first. Mouse pressed is the same. And that's looking good. Now let's change a little bit here. If mouse is pressed and we release it. Let's add brackets here so we can comment that out. Load next level. No, it's gonna be reset the level. If we click mouse pressed or release it on the menu, we want to say reset all and change the state to menu. Sounds reasonable. Nothing needs to be changed here. Just make sure that it's play.setMouseOver and not next.setMouseOver. And what else? Oh, we need a public void update so we can update our buttons. So menu.update play.update. And I think that's all we need in here for now. Yeah, so let's just call this update if the game over is true, which is in our playing here somewhere. I know we commented that out in our update. So let's just uncomment that. But as of now, we have no method of changing any mouse events. So let's go to our playing again and go down here to our mouse event methods. And I don't think we need to change too much. It's checking if the game is not over, do all of that. Else, meaning if it's game over, then game over overlay dot mouse pressed. Yeah, why not? We just need one. No, we need no brackets there. Mouse released. I can copy this and making sure I change it to mouse released. I can copy this again in mouse moved. If it's not game over, then we make sure it's mouse moved. And I think that's all. Let's see if our buttons are responsive to our inputs. If I can get hit, there we go. So let's try mouse over. Yes, we have mouse over. The buttons are opposite types. So this one should be red, this one should be green, but nothing should happen. Mouse move works, as you can see. Mouse pressed, released, and what happens if I let go here now? We reset, player full health, the game or the level resetted. Let's see if I can get killed again. If the same thing happens. Yeah, that looks really well. Now let's just move those two, or change those two. And that's in here. It should be 0 and 2, like so. Now everything should be correct. Rage quit, try again. Nothing happens, we're gonna fix that in a second. Rage quit, yes. Let's fix that last thing. Game over overlay. Playing, if we want to play, then we say playing.load next level, no, but playing.reset all, right? Isn't it called reset? Reset all, and that's all we need to do. So we can remove those brackets. Let's see if we can replay the level as soon as he dies. Try again. Let's see if I die somewhere else. Yeah, it's working. Wonderful. This is some good progress for today. It was about time that we added the death screen and also the animation. We had it in our files, we just never coded it into the game. But the game is looking more and more complete now. There's a few things that I would like to cover before this tutorial is complete. So make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. Until then, my friends, take care now and have a wonderful day. Bye.